And we're back. Sorry for the lost the internet connection there for a minute. Anyway, as I was saying, I use that little, what I call the cheater gray, just so everybody gets a good start on what their first gray of the final 12 are supposed to be. And I will help you, as best I can. I know it's not the same as being in the room together. Hopefully someday soon that will all change. But for the meantime, I'll help you do your best, so if it's not quite the right gray, that's all on me. There's not much we can do about that being separated the way we are, but we'll do our best. Anyway, so you picked the first one. So as we saw earlier, I picked, this little gray guy here, like this one. That's going to be the first gray, the second swatch on the grayscale. Okay, so I'm going to number that again. Write it. Make sure you're writing it on the side where you can see the gray, the paint, and just put that number 2. Boom. And then basically what you do from then on is just go down the line and number them all until you get to the end. With black. Don't edit out anything. Just take what you've got. Number them all first, and that way, when you're eventually doing the editing process, you're able to make a decision and make the change much more efficiently than if you were just doing it by eyeballing it. This way you actually it's almost like a Pantone swatch, exactly what the number is, on it, and that will help you guys do a better job of the editing. So I'm not going to bother doing that. I think I've shown you how to number them. So number all the swatches, all the way from, 1 and 2, all the way down, and then black's the very last one. And then once you have all that done, then it's time to start the editing process. And I'll show you how to do that in just a moment. All right, so now that you have basically organized all your grays from white to black, numbered them all so that they're going to be easier to edit. Now what you need to do is cut out the windows that you're going to use to complete the editing process, make the decision about your final 12 grays for the grayscale, and then you're going to mount them on the back of a sheet of Bristol. And I'm going to show you how to cut these windows out. You're going to make 3. They're really easy to make, and you just need one for the rough, kind of basic decision making about what the final 12 swatches are. And then you're going to use a nicer one that has markings on the back to precisely arrange each of those swatches so you see an exact inch of each one, and they should look really awesome. So this is how you do it. And there's a template for this. So if, I'm going to show you how to do it, but you can, look at the template online if you need a further reference, because it might look a little complicated, but it's really fairly simple. So here we go. Here it's an 11 by 14 sheet of Bristol. The same 11 by 14 Bristol that you were using to paint the swatches originally. So it's not like a different material or a different size or anything like that. And you can see, oh my God, he's drawn all over it, but it's really simpler than you think. What I'm trying to get you to do is to create 3 different windows, okay? 1, 2, 3. And each of them is, I'll block this off with a ruler, each of them is 14 inches in length, 3 inches in width here. And what you're doing is cutting out a 1 by 12 inch window in the middle. And this is what you're going to look at the swatches through. And I'll show you how this works. It really helps make the decision making process and editing go a lot more smoothly. So basically you're measuring in, and this is the back side of like the front side, you won't see any writing at all. This is the back side. So it's okay if you draw all over it the way I did. But I've measured out, as you can see here, let me zoom in a little bit more. You can see, like I've measured in 1 inch margins on either side, like this. Okay. Then at every 3 inches, there's a line that goes all the way through, like that and like that. And then what that does is provides me with a 1 inch by 12 inch window. That will be a hole in the Bristol board that you'll see the swatches through. So I'll cut one of them out right now. And again, you just use your ruler, use your knife, real easy to cut. I used to do this with illustration boards, but it was too much of a hassle. They're difficult to cut cleanly just because they're so thick. And so actually, this is the first time I'm like, you know what, forget illustration boards. They're expensive. They're really difficult to cut. Not a lot of students have much experience with like cutting things. And so this will keep it easier for everybody. So I'm going to cut out the first one and show you what I'm talking about. So I measure in those 3 inches. I just cut it this way. Okay, I'm going to take this part and put it over here. And now I'm going to, you cut the window out, which again, as you can see, is 1 inch by 12 inches. So I'll go to the vertical one so you can see that maybe a little better. So I'm going to cut the long sides first. And again, I'm not cutting all the way through because then there's no window. Then you just have a strip of Bristol board. So I'm cutting from the corner. Let me zoom in again. Cutting from the corner down here, right? 1 inch in. Again, get your fingers kind of in the middle from 1 inch in, cutting all the way through, nice and slow. Don't rush it. I don't want anybody getting hurt. Anytime there have been any like cutting accidents in assignments like this, it's usually because students are rushing it. Just take your time. It only takes a few seconds. Won't hurt you. Okay. Again, starting in the corner, all the way down, like that. And now the shortcuts, just 1 inch on the top, 1 inch on the bottom. Like that. And on the bottom like this. And now you're pretty much ready to go. All right. And so this is what the window looks like. So you pull that piece out. All the writing's on the back, but I don't care because you're going to be using the front. So now what you do is you're going to start making your decisions about what you want to use for your final 12. Well, we know already that the first one, number 1 is white. So that's always first. Okay. And black is always last. And when you're doing your editing, I don't want you to do just like 3 or 4 at a time. Every single time you're editing, use all 12 swatches, white, black, and the 9 grays. And I'm just going to pick them randomly out of my little stack here and just do it for fun. So we'll pick out some light ones. It's the white and the first gray. So that's number 1 and number 2, right? Your white and your first gray. And then just see what else we got. I'll just pick randomly. I'm going to pick like every, 40, something like that. I'm just going to pick every 4th swatch. Now that might not be right, because as you can see, I didn't have a real smooth gradation. I had only done 1 page worth of swatches. So that didn't give me much variety, but I'm just going to show you basically how the process works. So let's do number 7, and we'll skip to number like 13. Another 4 would be 17. So I'm just picking randomly just so I can show you how the process works. 20, we'll go to 21. 5, 8, 30. Let's go to 32. I want to make sure I got enough here. Hang on, 1. So that's actually 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I just need 2 more. You always need some good dark ones, so that's good. Here's a dark one. Another. Actually, I'm going to go back up and give us another light one. So I've got 7 to 13. Let's go to 10. And that there's 12 swatches there. Now, like I said, that's not exactly ideal, you know. But that's up to you. Again, this is just for demo purposes. And what you're going to do on the back is, and you saw this with the bottom one, you're going to want to measure out 1 inch to make it really, really precise. And I'll show you that in a minute. But when you're first editing, you don't need to tape the swatches down. You don't need to do anything precise. You're just trying to get an idea of how close you are. Once you get really close, then I'm going to ask you to tape them down and show me what you've got. But for now, I'm just going to lay them out like we did before, only now there's only 12. So this makes life easier. So I'm going to take, here's number 1, number 2, this is like 3, 4. And they don't have to be exactly precise. What was this? 2017. And you can see they're getting progressively darker. It doesn't look too bad, actually. Teacher's doing okay. Now, here's a huge jump, just so you know what a jump looks like. From this gray to this gray, that's a really big jump once you get down to the 12-step scale. So we'll just put them all here. But it's a good start. And pretty much nobody gets it correct the very first time they make their final decision about the 12, but it shouldn't take you too many revisions, 3 or 4, and you should be fine. But I want to make sure that everybody has a really tight gradated, good looking color scale. And here's black here. Now, before I do anything, I want to make sure I've got the right number. Do I have 12 swatches? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. I do. And now this is the key. You want to put your window on top because you have all this busy stuff and irregularity that is distracting. And you want to put the window on it like this. I recommend that you take your ruler because it's kind of heavy, okay? And put that down as kind of a weight. And what you're doing here is you're pressing this down flat. And what that does is it eliminates the shadows that you get. Now, the thing is, unfortunately, I do have a directional light over there, and it is kind of casting shadows, as you can see it. You can see it especially on these dark ones. But when you're looking down on it, I'm going to get my gray hair in the way, what's left of it. When you're looking down on it, you can clearly see if there are jumps or not. And looking here, what I'm seeing right away is there's a big jump between the second and third swatch. So we don't want to change this. You don't want to change the cheater gray swatch because that's technically correct. So this needs to be lighter, right? But then that might change the relationship here. So whatever number this was, I'm going to change that. So I'll tell you okay, you want to make this one lighter. This is a huge jump right here between this medium gray and this beginning of the dark gray. There's also a couple here that are cut in a way, and I unfortunately can't zoom in much closer, that actually I can see the edge of the swatch. I can see the paper, and you might need to trim swatches too. And when you are all submitting your images to me where your camera's pretty close to the grayscales, I can see that. Like any decent cell phone camera can show me, I can see it pretty clearly if you take a good picture of it. So you may need to trim the swatches, but the most important thing is what the values are. So I would say, looking at this, the first thing I would do is, okay, this is too dark, needs to be a little bit lighter, and there is such a huge jump here that I would make the lighter one darker and the darker one lighter. So again, don't forget, use the ruler because it helps, you can push it down and then, push it down again with your fingers up here like this. So And this is why you number them, right? So there's a jump between these two, and this is number 7. So I'd want to go back through my pile and probably pick number 5 or number 6 and see how that affects the gradations. And for these two, the ones that are a real big jump, this is 25 and numbers 25 and 28. So I would probably want to go back up to 24, or pardon me, take this down to like 26 and make it darker, and maybe 27, make it lighter, and see if that improves the gradation so that there's not a huge jump between the two. Okay. Now, what you're going to do when you finally submit them, and it's okay to submit them the way I just showed you, like where they're not taped down or anything. It'll just give me an idea of where you're at. Once you get close, I'm going to want you to tape them down. And the way to do that is you're going to take, and this is, I already marked it in another one, but just to speed things up, I'm going to show you what it looks like to actually mount them. So on the back, what you're going to do is mark off every inch, and be careful because it needs to be pretty accurate. So I'm marking off, let me use that camera so you can see a little more clearly, marking off every inch. And I'm just using a little mark. I mean, if you feel more comfortable doing something bigger, like this, or like that, that's fine. Okay. Flip it around, do the same thing on this side, mark off every inch. Like that. And then what you're going to do, and this is how you do it, okay. I'm going to pretend, even though I showed you that this is not the case, that these are your final 12. You've shown them to me. I'm like, okay, you're fine. You don't need to make any more changes. I don't see any jumps. I don't see anything where the swatches are, look like they're too close together. What you do then is you mount them. And the way you mount them is just by using a little tape, masking tape or artist tape like this. Just, don't need a lot, just a little small piece. And what you do is you line up, okay, each of these with the back, okay? So again, and you line it up so that one edge matches one 1-inch mark and the other matches the other, like that, right? So that you would have it. And again, you want to make sure with the light grays, be really careful because you can, hopefully you can see, maybe not so clearly, but I can see the gray pencil marks. And if you align it properly, I shouldn't be able to see those and you should be okay. So you want to, again, line them up to the 1-inch marks like that. That looks like reasonably good. Okay. And you always start with the white on the top. Let me make sure because this looks like it's a little bit off to me. Be really careful with the measurements because if you're off by just a little bit, it'll make them look crooked. Yeah, that's just a little bit off. So I'm going to move that one like that. There we go. So again, tape side down. And the great thing about the tape is you just need a little bit. And if things aren't aligned properly, to your satisfaction, you can pull it up and it won't hurt anything. Like it won't tear. It'll tear the back of the swatch. It might tear, the back of the bristle. Who cares? Because I'm not going to see it. I'm just going to see the front like this. So I'm going to, again, line this up a little bit. Make sure that. And you want to start with white and work your way down. So here we go. So that's number 1. I'm going to take number 2. And do the same thing. Again, you're just lining it up with the 2 marks, okay, the 1-inch marks. And again, I'm not going to do the whole thing because it just takes too long. So when they are finally mounted, they look so lovely. And that is how they're going to look. Okay, so let me get the overhead again. So again, this is how, they will look like this. Okay, and they will just get progressively darker as you go all the way down, but you can see, hopefully how gorgeous they are, and you're going to present them to me where you're going to photograph them vertically like this. Okay. And you saw the examples that I showed you from previous student examples in the lecture. So you know what these things look like. Okay. And that's it. And you just tape it down one by one, just make sure that everything's lined up. Use a little bit of tape. If when you flip it back over, it doesn't look right or they're crooked or something like that, no big deal. It's okay. You can easily, as I'll show you here, you can easily just peel it off. Just dig your fingernail under the tape. Don't rip it or anything. It'll just come right off like that, right? And then you can just readjust it. It's like, oh, that wasn't perfectly, so I just need to move it a little bit more this way. Boom, and just tape it back down again. And you're fine, okay? So that's basically how you do it. That's what the windows will look like. I know it's nice and slim and lovely. And this is what you are going to photograph and send to me. And this is what I'm basing your grade on is the execution, how clean the cuts are. Again, I feel pretty confident this time around that that I've changed the material from an illustration board to Bristol board. It'll be so much easier for all of you to cut it, which means there won't be any mistakes in terms of like shredding the Bristol board or anything. And it's really easy to tape the swatches down and remove them and adjust them if you need to. So I think that pretty much covers the, how to mount them, how to edit them, and like how to use the window to edit first. You don't need to use the tape, but when you start getting close, and I think that you're almost there, I will ask you to submit them taped at 1-inch intervals like this in order to make sure that they're exactly where they need to be and you don't need to make any final changes. So that's how you cut the windows. Again, the template's online, so you can, if I know it looked really complex when you're looking at me through the GoPro cameras. It looks like there's a lot of stuff going on the back, but there's a template for reference that'll help you. And if you have any questions, of course, ask me. So that's how you cut the window. That's how you design the windows, cut the windows, use the windows to edit, and then use, again, the windows to present your final grayscales to moi. And then we're all done with that. We move on to the next assignment. All right, thanks. And again, like any questions, let me know.